Let me tell you a story about two best friends who never thought they'd fall in love. But sometimes, love sneaks in quietly, between late-night phone calls, unspoken glances, and the fear of losing what feels like home. This is a story about friendship, confusion, and a love that took years to finally speak its name. It's real, it's raw, and if you've ever loved someone in silence, this might feel a little too familiar. Settle in, because this one's going to stay with you for a while. It started when they were 12. Aiden had just moved into a quiet neighborhood in North Carolina with his mom. A new school, a new town, and no idea where to fit in. He wasn't the loud type. He was the kind of kid who sat in the back of the classroom, drew superheroes in his notebook, and kept his hoodie pulled up just a little too often. Then there was Josh, the boy next door. Confident, funny, always surrounded by people, but not in a flashy way. He had this natural warmth to him, like someone you'd trust instantly without knowing why. Josh noticed Aiden that first week, noticed how he sat alone at lunch, noticed how he avoided eye contact, and for some reason, Josh walked up to him one afternoon after school, tossed a bag of Skittles on the table, and said, "You look like you could use some sugar." That was it, the beginning of everything. From that day on, they were inseparable. Josh brought Aiden into his world. Sleepovers, bike rides, inside jokes that made no sense to anyone else. Aiden, in return, gave Josh something he didn't even know he needed. Someone who truly saw him, not just the version everyone else expected. They grew up together. Middle school turned into high school. Acne faded, voices deepened, their worlds got bigger, but their friendship only grew stronger. They were each other's constants. But as they got older, things started to shift. Not in some dramatic movie scene kind of way, just subtly, like the way Aiden's heart beat a little faster when Josh laughed, or the way Josh started noticing when Aiden didn't reply to a text right away, or how they sat a little closer during movie nights, not because the couch was small, but because the space between them suddenly felt too wide. Neither of them said anything, not because they didn't feel it, but because they didn't know how to name it yet. By junior year, the changes between them were harder to ignore. Josh started dating a girl named Natalie. Pretty, smart, the kind of girl everyone liked. Aiden smiled when Josh talked about her. He listened, asked questions, even helped him pick out a birthday gift for her. But inside, he felt like something was slipping away. He couldn't explain it. The sudden ache in his chest when he saw Josh holding her hand. The strange quiet that filled him when Josh would cancel a hangout because he was going to see her. It wasn't jealousy, not in the traditional sense. It was more like mourning, like something unspoken between them was starting to fade, and he didn't know how to stop it. One night, after Josh had gone out with Natalie, Aiden sat alone on the porch steps, hoodie over his head, headphones in, staring at nothing. Josh came home late, walking up the sidewalk with that easy smile of his. He saw Aiden and sat beside him without a word. They didn't talk at first, just sat there, knees brushing, listening to the crickets. Then Josh said, "She's great, you know, but I don't feel right." Aiden didn't respond. Josh leaned back, arms resting on the step behind him. "I feel like I'm trying to want something I'm not even sure I want." Aiden finally looked at him. "Then why are you with her?" Josh hesitated, then shrugged. "Because it's easier than answering the real question." Aiden didn't ask what that question was. He already knew. But saying it out loud would make it real. And real was terrifying. That night, when Josh left, Aiden couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, heart pounding, thoughts racing. He knew what he felt, knew it with a clarity that terrified him. But knowing it and admitting it, especially to Josh, were two very different things. It happened the night of Josh's 17th birthday. They'd planned to spend it the way they always did, low-key. No party, just a movie marathon at Josh's place. Pizza, junk food, and falling asleep on the couch like they'd done since they were 13. They were halfway through the second movie, both stretched out on opposite sides of the couch. a blanket thrown carelessly over their legs. The lights were off, the room dim except for the flickering screen, and the world felt small, safe, and distant from everything else. At some point, Josh shifted closer. His foot brushed against Aiden's. Neither of them moved. And then Josh said, so quietly it almost got swallowed by the movie, "Do you ever feel like we're not just friends?" Aiden didn't breathe, didn't speak. He just stared at the screen, heart hammering in his chest. He thought, please don't be joking. Please don't take it back. Josh turned to look at him. I'm not trying to be weird. I think about it, sometimes. A lot, actually. Aiden finally looked at him. Their eyes met. And in that moment, the air between them changed. It wasn't tension, it was electricity. Quiet, buzzing, undeniable. Josh gave him a nervous smile, then quickly added, it's okay if you don't feel the same. And Aiden, for the first time in his life, let the words fall out of his mouth without editing them. I do. Josh blinked. You do? Aiden nodded. I felt it for a while. I just didn't want to lose what we had. Josh let out this quiet, shaky laugh, like the kind you make when relief hits harder than you expect. You have no idea how long I've been waiting to hear you say that. They didn't kiss that night. There was no dramatic music or slow motion moment. They just sat there, shoulder to shoulder, blanket between them, hands inching closer, but never quite touching. It was messy and sweet and uncertain, but it was theirs. And for the first time in a long time, they both slept better than they had in months. The days after that night were strange, not in a bad way, just different. They didn't label anything. No boyfriend talk, no dramatic declarations. They still acted like best friends in public. Still joked, still roughhoused, still shouted over video games, and stole fries from each other's plates. But when they were alone, it was quieter, more intentional, a lingering look, a hand brushing just a second longer, a softness in the way Josh would say Aiden's name. Aiden found himself smiling more, laughing more, feeling lighter. But with that came the fear. The real world was still out there, and the world had opinions. They hadn't told anyone yet, not because they were ashamed, but because they didn't want to lose the little bubble they'd created. They weren't sure how people would react, especially their friends, especially Aiden's mom, who still asked if he had a crush on any girls from school. Then one afternoon, while walking out of the movie theater, it happened. Josh nudged Aiden playfully, laughing about something stupid, and without thinking, Aiden reached out and held onto his arm a second too long. It wasn't a big deal, just a moment. But in that exact moment, one of their classmates passed by and saw them. Aiden saw the look, the raised eyebrow, the half smile that wasn't kind. And in that second, reality hit like a wave. The whispers started 2 days later. Small at first, a joke here, a glance there. A few, are you two, like, together? Questions that were meant to sound casual, but were loaded with meaning. Aiden panicked. He started pulling away, texting less, avoiding eye contact, pretending nothing had changed. Josh noticed. Of course he did. One night, Josh showed up at his door, frustrated and quiet. What are you doing, Aiden? Aiden stared at him. I don't know. Josh stepped forward. I'm not asking you to hold my hand in the hallway. I'm just asking you to not act like what we have is something you regret. Aiden swallowed hard. I'm scared, Josh. I am too, Josh said softly. But hiding from it doesn't make it go away. It just makes it hurt more. They stood there in silence for a long time, and then, without saying anything else, Josh turned to leave. But just as he reached the steps, Aiden called after him. I don't regret it. I never have. Josh stopped, slowly turned around. I know, he said. Then he smiled. Not the big, charming smile he gave the world. The small one. The one that only ever belonged to Aiden. After that night, something shifted. Aiden didn't become fearless overnight. He still hesitated, still overthought every glance, every touch in public. But he stopped pretending. And somehow, the world didn't end. Josh didn't push. He never had. He just kept showing up, patiently, consistently, like he always did. That was his way. He let Aiden come to him, 1 inch at a time, until the space between them disappeared again. One Saturday, they were sitting in the park, just the two of them, sharing a milkshake like they used to in middle school. The sun was setting, casting long golden shadows across the grass, and Josh reached out, took Aiden's hand, and didn't let go. A group of boys from their school walked by. One of them looked, then looked again, but nothing was said. No comment, no laugh, just life moving forward. And in that moment, Aiden realized something. It wasn't about being out or making a statement. It was about choosing love, without apology, without fear. Because the truth was, they weren't just best friends who fell in love. They were home to each other, not perfect, not without mistakes, but real. And real love doesn't always need grand gestures or dramatic moments. Sometimes it's a bag of Skittles on the first day of school, a late-night movie on a beat-up couch, a gentle touch in the middle of a crowded park. Sometimes love is quiet, but it's there, steady, unshakable, waiting to be seen. And Aiden, he saw it now, clearly, completely. He looked over at Josh, their fingers still intertwined, and smiled. Not because he was in love with his best friend, but because his best friend had always been the love of his life. And that's their story. Two boys, one friendship, and a love that quietly grew into something deeper than either of them expected. If this story touched you even a little, give it a like. It really helps more people find these kinds of stories. And hey, if you've got a best friend who means a little more than they know, maybe share this with them. Who knows what might happen? And don't forget to subscribe. I've got more stories coming. Real, raw, emotional, just like this one. Ones that'll make you feel something. Until next time, take care of your heart. You never know who it might be quietly falling for.